Welcome everybody to Art 186, Computer Graphics with Adobe Illustrator for the spring semester 2022. Today we're working on, continuing to work on Lesson 9, which covers the subject of typography. It's a good lesson. I think Illustrator has one of the strongest type tools around for any computer graphics program. Not only can you create one sheets like you see here, but small brochures, logos, custom type of any kind. It does an excellent job. If you were creating a book, though, it wouldn't be probably the right tool. You would probably want to use InDesign for that. But because InDesign is another Adobe product, it's something that you can flow back and forth between the two, and Photoshop as well, if you're going to incorporate other images. The two designs that they provided for us, they have already done some nice little illustrations for us. See to the left, recipe for strawberry lemonade. The one to the right, grilled rainbow trout, both horizontal and vertical formats. What I'm showing you at the moment is the finished version. And you'll notice as soon as I opened it up on my computer, all of the type is highlighted in kind of a pink or light red. That means what should pop up on your screen is that there are fonts missing from your computer. And what you need to do is you need to activate those from Adobe. They're all checked, and if you don't want to activate them from Adobe, then you select replace fonts and you just simply use different fonts, and that's it. In this particular instance, we're trying to work with the Adobe fonts and update them directly. So I'm going to try to activate, and I'm going to cross my fingers and hope that it works. And you see that the little wheel's spinning there. So it's gone to Adobe, and it looks like it successfully added them. So now what we can do is, let's go ahead and this is new as far as I know, enable auto activate. Just anytime you open a file and it doesn't have the fonts that you want, it will activate the ones on the Adobe website. There are literally thousands and thousands and thousands of fonts available to you. So to have all of them on your computer would not be wise. It would take up a lot of storage space, and it really wouldn't be very practical. But sometimes their online service is kind of sluggish and it doesn't work the way it's supposed to. So, whatever works for you. So what I can do now is let's go over the various parts type that are all highlighted. We have the word fresh, and it is aligned with, what do they call these guys? I can't remember. I wanted to say it's a ligature. It's not. It's I can't think. We'll come to it in a little bit. Anyway, we want it to align to these shapes, and there's a nifty little tool that does that. In addition to that, show you the difference between setting type by point, by area, adjusting area type so that it doesn't necessarily fall into a rectangular format, but it can be in any shape really that you want. We can work with multiple columns. We can also work, if you see in the lower right-hand column or lower right-hand corner, that this is a 2-column format, but what we have done is we have taken the type and we have linked it to one another. So if I were to come over to here And let's go ahead and make sure that I have my type updated. It should be, let's go ahead and refresh. I'm going to go over to the other one. We have Trout, and we have the other one that was recently done. Let's click. Oh, these are great. Well, let's try these two. These should all be okay. We'll find out soon enough. But anyway, when you select the type, you'll notice that it is linked from one to the other. If I come in here and with the type tool, let's go ahead and click inside here. And come on. Already having troubles. So let me go ahead and start with the next lesson, with the lesson itself, the start file, and that will fix that. I think what I did by accident is I activated a little bit of type here, and that happens easily. So when that happens, just delete it. Because anytime you use the type tool, and if you click anywhere, it automatically creates a bit of type. And then when you click off of it, you're thinking, well, I didn't want that anymore. And before you know it, it's like, well, you have all these little stray pieces laying around, and I don't want that, so I'm just going to deselect it. So let's go over to our start file, and let's work with some type here. So I'm going to take that one, and I'm going to do it again. I'm going to go ahead and work with it, and it'll start by using the default typeface. Okay, so I'm going to select type. And again, to repeat, notice that you have type, the type tool, you have type that follows a path, and you have vertical type. Okay, so let's just use the horizontal type here. And I'm going to click anywhere, and it just zooms in here, and I have something called lorem ipsum. And what I want to do now is I'm going to use all caps, and I'm going to type in the word fresh. I'm going to click the move tool. And now what I can do, because this is point, I can click and I can make this any size, and I can distort it any way I wish. So you need to be careful about that when you resize the type. Hold down the shift key and click and drag, and you can make it a larger size, and that size will be reflected in the properties panel. And if I go back up and let me go to the desktops, and I want Essentials Classic because I like having the options menu along the top there. But again, you'll have that as well. Okay, so it will reflect the new type size, and it will be some oddball size. So one of the things that they want us to do is, if you click on the little arrow to the right, you'll have a whole series of default type sizes that are used all the time. And I believe they want us to use 48 point. And if you double click on this little button to the right, this little dot to the right of the text, now it turns it from point type into area type. So now when I click and I drag, notice that the box increases in size, but the type now is left alone. Why that's important is that when you add a block of text, you don't want to have to hit the return key at the time every time you go to the end. So if I click in here, I hit the space bar, and I just start typing some gibberish. What will happen is that when you use area type, as soon as it hits the end of the text box, it will automatically jump to the next line of type. And that's what you want in some instances. If you don't want that, we can go back to the selection tool, and I can double click again, and it goes back to point. So that's a nice tool. So I'm going to move this over here. And 48 point makes sense, but it's using, notice that it doesn't match the height of our, the tail to our arrow. And that's because we're using the default font Myriad Pro. But if I come up here and I switch, and I think they want us to use Optum. Let's, Let's scroll down to O. And O. I don't want Optima. I want Optum. So you know what? Since I can't remember, I'm going to go back to the start file and I'm going to see which one they want us to use. So if I click on any character in here, let's go ahead and select the type. Click in here. This is Montserrat. This is Oswald. So Oswald and Montserrat are the two that we use in this lesson. Okay. So this one is Oswald. And if you don't find it, then you can always type it in here rather than scroll through there. So I'm going to type in Oswald. Oh, I can't type to save my soul. And there is Oswald. We have regular and we have Oswald Light. And notice that when I change it to Oswald Light at 48 point, it matches pretty darn close to the height that we have here. And in a few minutes, I'll show you how we can align it perfectly. One of the things that we have to do is, well, I'll get to that in a little bit. Okay, so the typefaces are available. And why they didn't load up in the, I mean, they loaded up in the finished file, but why they didn't automatically let us use it, then I'm not quite sure why. I'd have to come back to that. So the next thing that we want to do now is try again. We're going to use, for these guys, I believe we're going to use Montserrat. So let's go ahead and this time to create a block of text. One of the ways that you can do that is click and drag. And now what that does is that automatically creates an area type. So now what we want to do is we want to type strawberry lemonade. And I believe it's all caps. So let's do that. Put on caps on. Let's see if I typed that correctly. So I'm going to, and I'm sure I have typos here. So notice the little red box in the little right-hand corner. That means it's missing type. But as soon as I come back here and I click on the corner and I resize it, yeah, lemonade. That's what I want, lemonade. So let's come back in here with a type tool and let's fix it so that it's on 2 lines and then we'll be set to go. So all of this is very flexible. Let me zoom out a little bit so I can change the size of the box. So I'm going to come back with a selection tool again, and I'm just going to move it over. So I want lemonade on 2 lines. Okay, so I'll go back with a type tool to make my change here. And I need to, I don't know, see, it's easy to click in here. And there we go. Make sure that the cursor is in the type to be able to edit it. Otherwise, it automatically adds another, area of bit of type, and it gets confusing at times. So what I'm going to do is let's go ahead and fix this. So we have strawberry lemonade, and I'm going to go ahead, and this is going to be pretty good size here. So I'm going to go back with a move tool, and I'm just going to stretch this out. So now it's on 1 line. I think they want it on 2 lines though. Yep, they do. So I'm going to go back and I've selected Oswald. And I think they want 70 point. So I'm going to come back here and I'm going to go back, and here's 72. And that's not the right size. So I'm going to come back and just put in 70. 70 is an odd size for type. 72 is a bit normal, 1 inch. Let's stretch that out. Oh, come on, what happened here? Let's go back in here with the type tool. Select it all. Command A. And I do have 72 point. So there we go. But instead of Oswald, they want Montserrat. Something like that. M-O-M-O, Mont. Yeah, Montserrat. I think it's medium or light. I think it's light. But it makes a huge difference in the feel of the design, whether you choose a heavyweight or lightweight. I mean, for example, with lemonade, you want it to be light and refreshing, right? You don't want it to be heavy and cumbersome. So instead, what we're going to do, let's go back here. Why am I getting that little error message there? Surratt. So I'm going to pause the recording for a minute because I need to figure out if I have, yeah, my mistake. I hate doing that because I always forget. Yes, I did mean to stop the recording, but I forgot to turn it back on because I was checking on something. And where did you recall where I stopped? Jaron? Anybody? Did anybody notice where I stopped it? Well, going back to strawberry lemonade, let's work on that. So if we double click on this little box here, a little dot, this turns it into point height. Notice again, I can shift and I can click and I can make it any size I want. If I double click on it again, it turns it into area type. So now when I click and I drag on the box, it's all one size. And if I click and if I go ahead and I continue to type in here, like so, notice that it just goes to the end of the box and goes to the next line. That's what I want. Okay, for this, but that's just to show you what you're doing. And if you delete that type, you can reduce the size of the box and it doesn't distort the type any at all. All right. So here we have the strawberry lemonade. And while it's selected, instead of fill of black, I'm going to switch to red. You don't have, in Illustrator, you don't have to actually select the type individually, the individual letter forms. You just have to select the block of text and pick the color that you want. Unless you want to select individual letter forms and change them, change the colors, you can. The next thing that I did is that I made sure that I had Oswald as a typeface selected. And then I came back and using the type tool, I just typed the word serves, or the words serve 6 to 8. And then I held down the Option or Alt key and as well as the Shift key to make a copy of it. And then instead I went in with the type tool and clicked in there and said time 15 minutes. And since I don't want that, I'm done. So what I was saying about snap to glyph, let's go back in here. So to activate that, you have to go under view, and it's way down at the bottom. It says snap to glyph. Got to make sure that that is selected. And then let's go ahead and let's bring the character panel up. So I'm going to go to Window and under Type down here, I'm going to bring up the character panel. And when you do that, you're going to see at the bottom, these are your snap to glyph options. We have bottom, top. So I'm going to use the bottom for right now. And when I click over here, and I drag, and when I bring it down, notice the little green line that aligns it. So now it's aligned perfectly. And now what I can do is I could just use my arrow key to move it over a little bit. Likewise, I want to create the point end of the type or of the arrow, and I want to use the H as my guide as well. So what I do is I select the H. Let's go back to the type here. And I'm going to write. Actually, I want the selection tool, and I want to right click, and I want to select snap to glyph. Okay, notice how it highlights in blue. So now what I can do is I can use the pen tool, and I'm going to move up here, and notice how it automatically snaps to that corner. Then I can hold down the shift key, and it will automatically lock in at 45 degrees. And you'll notice that the green line appears when it's at the midpoint. And I can click again. I can move down again, hold down the shift key. And when it locks over here, you can see that I can do that. And there it fills perfectly. So now what I can do is with that, whoops, I didn't want that. Got to make sure that I use the move tool. Now I can go ahead and I can, whoops, come on. Select it and use the arrow key to move it to the right. So now you have these matched perfectly in height. We have the tail end that we use the snap to glyph, and we right click on the letter to make our pointed arrow to make it snap perfectly so that matches the height. And the center of that matches the middle of our H. That works really nice. So I can go ahead, I can release that if I want, but it's fine. It's not going to change the size of my pointed arrow. And then if you want, because at the very end of this, what they've done is they've selected these three elements. And if you want to rotate it or do anything else to it and see it as a group, then you should turn it into a group, Command G. And a group is nothing more than a container. So now if I want to rotate this, I can rotate the whole thing. If I want to move it, I can move the whole thing. If I want to resize it, if I want to edit the type, I can do that as well. I can go ahead and I can click inside there, and it allows me to edit. Okay. And if I wanted to change the font, I could do that. I can do anything that I want to it. None of this is permanent, or none of these are permanent changes. I'm going to jump down to where it says directions. And right now it's using Myriad Pro. I'm going to select it and I'm going to switch to Montserrat Light. Well, I guess I need to, let me find Montserrat Medium. And I'm going to use for the directions itself, I'm going to use Oswald. So you can mix and match. I would not use too many typefaces. When you're designing something. Again, you'll notice in the lower right-hand corner that the 12 point that I used, there's that little red box in the lower right-hand corner. And that's indicating that some type is missing. It's there, but it's not visible. So if that's the only size of box that you can use, you need to reset, and you've imported your type. What you need to do is you need to select it. So come back in here and select all. And instead of 12 point, let's go ahead and move down maybe to 11. And that does it just fine. That lets it fit just perfectly. But you'll notice that it overlaps the lemons. So what we want to do now is let's pick the direct selection tool. And I'm going to select the anchor point over the lower left corner. Now I'm going to click and I'm going to drag, and I need to hold down the shift key, because if I pull it down here, notice that it changes the configuration of the box. I want to move it just to the right. So if I click on it and I drag it and I hold down the shift key, now I've reconfigured my box. But again, I've run into that problem again of having the not all of the type fit. So I do have some space to the right. So what I can do is I can click and I can drag and pull that out until it fits. And that works pretty nicely. And then if I move back over here, I can go ahead and I can move everything over just a little bit. Okay. So that allows us to make all of those changes so that the type fits our design just really nice. Okay, so that allows you to create custom shaped boxes. And again, if I click on here, let's go ahead and using the direct selection tool. If I click on here and I want it like that, that's the shape of the area type that I want. Okay, so as I said, and it doesn't, if I want to add an anchor point to this, I could do that. I don't, but let's go ahead and add an anchor point. If I move it over here and I click, and then I go ahead with the direct selection tool and I move up here. So now it fits that box. Okay, so there are lots of options with this, lots and lots of options. You can make type a little bit more, what's the word that I'm looking for? Make it work more effectively to communicate a mood that you're going for, or to fit, particular design that you want to work with, just as we've done here. The next part that I think is worthwhile doing is, I did that. Let's work with the type over here in the lower right-hand corner. Okay. So what we need to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to click and drag with the type tool. Or I'm just going to go, let's do it instead. I'm going to go to File and I'm going to select Import, Place, I should say. And I need to go inside here. And here's the column text. I can't remember. This is the larger one. So I think this is the one that we want. Just plain text. Okay. Click OK. And notice that when I do that, when I place the text from an outside source, I get this little box. I click, and there's all of the type. It comes in, again, the default Myriad Pro. I don't want Myriad Pro, I want Montserrat. So I'm going to select all. And I'm going to switch to Montserrat. Okay, now the box can't, I don't want it, I want it to be in 2 columns. So I'm going to select and I'm going to move this over so that it fits like I want it right here. But notice I don't want it to fit all the way down there. I need it to move it up. So I'll move it up. So, well, that works nicely, but look at all the type that I'm missing. Well, I have all of this space over here. So what I can do is I can click on that box now, and what it does is it should bring up, there we go, another little icon that allows me to take whatever is left in that box and add it here. Now I can pull this out like so. And there we have it. We have, notice how it is sprung together. And now you'll notice under directions, there's ingredients and directions. If I want, I can use a type tool. I can come in here and I can select, put the cursor just in front of the word or the letter D, and I can hit the return key. And notice how it fits in here as well. It automatically moved it over. So now what I can do is I can select this, for example. I don't want the whole thing, I just want ingredient. And I want this to be Oswald. So you just select the type that you want to change, and we'll put Oswald. Okay, and same with directions. And notice how it's affected this. I'm going to go ahead and change this first and put in Oswald. So anytime you change the typeface, it's going to change both the vertical and horizontal placement of things. So I'm going to come back here and I'm going to hit the return key once, or the delete key, I should say, so that it all fits. Now, this isn't the right size, so I'm going to select all. And it is 12 point, but since I already used 11 point, I think that might work better. And again, do the instructions in the book say that? I don't know. I'm working with this as if I were designing it myself. Click in here, add a little bit more space. Click over here, remove some space. Click over here, add a little bit of space, make it look visually a little bit more interesting. Okay. So one of the next steps up here is that we can take elements, for example, let's take these two and bring them over here. We want to align them with these little objects here. So I'm going to take both of them from here. Hold down the Shift key. And I'm going to hold down the Alt or the Option key and click and drag. It makes a copy. Now, I want these to be aligned with one another. These I want to be aligned with this. So I'm going to select these, all of them. Oh, come on. Select that, hold down the Shift key. And this one. And so they're all selected. And now what I can do over to the right in the properties panel is you'll notice that we have under the align, we have these align tools. So if you want them, and it's easy to get goofed up. If I click the left one, they're all aligned to the left. I don't want that. If I click this, they're all aligned to the center. I don't want that either. And if I click here, you'll also see distribution as well. So I want this to be all aligned according to the center. And they're all perfectly aligned anyway, they're fine. Now, if I want them equally distributed, then I would use these other tools that I showed you down here. I can align objects or I can distribute them equally. It's really a pretty nifty tool. Let me show you that before we create the type that goes over the fish here. So I'm going to go back over here and select type. Actually, I just want the move tool. I'm going to select this and pull it over. And I'm holding down the Shift key as I do that so that everything aligns perfectly, you know, that it remains horizontal or aligned along the middle of all of this. Okay. So the next thing that we want, and I'll come back over to this one, we've already sort of done it, but what I want to do is show you how to take, let's jump back in here. Oh, we've done, they wanted to do character styles and some other stuff. Let me jump down here for a minute before we do the top one, where we put in grilled rainbow trout. Because I am forgetting a few things in here, but that's okay. While you guys do the exercise, there are a few more pieces of the puzzle that you'll learn here. But you'll notice that we have this little logo here. And if I move it here, it just sets it on top of the type. I want the type to wrap around it. So what I can do is I can select the object. I can go to object, and then I can go to down here, And I want it to, where is it? Text wrap, make. And if I double click on text wrap, or if I do that again, so let me go again, object, text wrap. I want, look at the options here. Right now it's 6 point. If I want it to be 12 point, I can just put that in. I don't want 612. I want 12 point. And click OK. And notice how it's a little bit, the ring around it is a little bit wider. And now when I move it over, you've got to select them both. So let's select the type. Let's select this. And move this over. I got to make sure it's on top. If it's not on top, it won't work. So I'm going to select this one and go Object Arrange and say Bring to Front. Bring to front. And now when I move it over, notice how it wraps around. Before I did not have it, on the top of this type layer. And then it will work. Very, very nice feature. In the past, this had to be all hand set if you wanted this. The other thing they wanted to do is use this little stroke around here and wrap some text around it. So what we're going to do there, that's wrapping the text on there. What do they want us to put on there? Well, I'll just put anything. It's really not important at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select text. And what I want it to do is I want it to type on a path tool. So I can click here and it will put some Greeking in there. Now I can go ahead and now that the type is selected, I can change it to a little bit larger. Any size I want, I can use any font that I want. And then if I need to rotate it around, then go back to the move tool and zoom in a little bit. And now what I can do is there is a little cursor right here, and I can slide it along that path. Really very nice. And again, if this is not fitting, there you go. And now I just come back and instead of the lorem ipsum, we put in whatever, they want us to put in there. So that's having type follow a path. And it doesn't have to be a circle. It can be any shape and it could be any kind of path. It can be a rectangle. It can be a star shape. You can have it follow it. And the same with text going inside areas. It can be any area you want. It doesn't have to be a rectangle. It can be any shape that you want. Okay, so that's following path. Now, the next one that they want is grilled rainbow trout. And I'm going to go back over here for a minute to see what they use, what type used. Let's see, select type tool. And actually they didn't. They went ahead and they didn't make it editable for the grilled. They changed that. Well, we can do that. Let's see what we have for the rainbow trout though. No, they changed it. I'm going to look at the warp options. And you can see over the warp, what we're going to apply is a warp to the type. Now, one of the things that you can do with type is you can turn it from editable type to a shape. So let me show you how to do that with this, as well as warp the text. So I'm going to go ahead here and type, and I'm going to click, let's make it a little bit larger. Oswald, let's make it, I want to make it 48, and I want to name it grilled. Okay, then I'm going to deselect it because I want it separate from the trout. So, okay, So if we go back over here, grilled rainbow trout, I want these to be separate entities. If I just hit the return key, they're gonna be one element, and I don't want that. I want them to be separate, so you have to go back and switch it. And let's go back again. I think they want for this, I think they do want to use Montserrat. I don't want that. Click in here, select all. And I'm going to go back to Montserrat, or not Montserrat. I think the default that we had before. Myriad Pro. I'm just going to use Myriad Pro. Okay. And then if you want, you can also change the weight of it. Right now, we just have regular. And that's fine for right now. Now, what I can do with this is if I want, I can turn this into a shape. Right now, it's editable text. If you do turn it into a shape, it's no longer editable, and it's a permanent change unless you have a few undos available to you. So one of the things that I like to do is I'll create a separate artboard, or just hold down the Option key, click and drag, and make a copy of it. And now when I select this, what I can do is I can go back over to Type, under the Type menu, and I can say convert to area type, or just I can outline the text. So what I want to do is instead is I'm going to use create outlines. And now what I've done is if I click on this, you'll see that it's all turned into shapes, individual shapes that have been turned into a group. Okay, so that's doable if you want. For certain things that does work, especially when you're designing custom logos. The other thing we're going to do now is I'm going to type in here rainbow trout. So rainbow. Oh, come on. And I'm going to move it over a little bit. And let's make it a little bit larger. So I think in the book, they may have converted this. I don't think it's a good idea. I like keeping things editable. So that's fine for our purposes. But now what I want to do, and there's a little tool up here that says make envelope. So I can click here, and there's a couple of ways that we can do this. We can work it with a warp tool or the mesh, and I will show you both. Let's start with warp. And now what I should be able to do is I should look at over here. Let's select it. And where is my mesh tool? Let's go back again. There we go. There's the and it starts off by using an arc. So I can turn this down like so. It's pretty cool. I can also pick from other options here, lower arc, which is the one I believe that they used, and then I can change the amount of bend. Like so. Lots of options here that you should consider when you're designing your skateboard deck. Okay, look at all the options here, from inflate, squeeze, a twist, to lower, shell lower. Let's go to arc upper. And again, you have all of these tools, and you can adjust not only the bend, but how much of the horizontal and the vertical you want to change. So I'm going to go back to up to arc lower and click OK. And this remains editable. You can always go back to this tool and change it. And you can see that under warp options, I can always bring that back up over here in the properties panel once it's selected. I can also go back with the type tool, and I can come in here, and I don't want to do that. Let's undo that. let's come back again. Hold on here. No, well, might be better to turn that off and then come back and edit the text again, but it is editable, which is really very nice. The other thing that I wanted to show you how to do is let me go ahead and add some text again, create outlines, and then I'm going to show you how to use a mesh instead, which is really pretty cool. So I'm going to deselect. Now there's supposed to be a little bit of type in here as well, but we can pass on that for right now. And we're almost done with our hour anyway. So I think I have caught up where I accidentally turned off the recording, and I think I've caught everything up, and we can move on Thursday. So here we go. I'm going to create some type here. And let's go back in here. Let's highlight it. And my logo. And let's go ahead and see if I can't make it a little bit bolder. No, let's pick another one then. It's a little bit bolder. I use Arial Black. So there we go. Oh, come on. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this type and I'm going to convert it. So I'll go to Object, or rather Type, and I want to say Create Outlines. So now it's an outline. And now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and work with a mesh this time. So I'm going to go to Object. And what I want to do is I want to go to Envelope Distort. Now I could go ahead with a warp, but this time I'm going to work with the mesh. And I'm going to go with the default 4 rows, 4 columns, and click OK. Now I can come back with my direct select tool. And I can click on any one of these points here and begin to distort my type. So for any of you who are fans of the 60s and the kind of psychedelic movie posters that they would have for like the Grateful Dead and stuff that all were done by hand, well, this is something that you can easily do now in Illustrator by using the mesh warp. Pretty cool. Okay, so that's pretty much all I have for you guys today. I hope that I was able to get back on track. Okay, I was looking for the character fonts. Okay, well, I think I got everything. If not, it should be close. Okie doke. So that's it for today. This should be up in about an hour or so. And if you have any questions for next time, I can always go back and revisit. Let me check again to see who's here. Michelle joined us. And anybody else? I think that's everybody. Okie doke. Well, have a good afternoon. And next time, yeah, you may have to remind me. Yeah, you two have a great day. You know, when I turn off the video, because I'm hunting and pecking for something, have me turn it back on because I forget. I'm so focused on talking to you that sometimes I forget where I'm at here. So it's not the same as lecturing in front of you. It's really not the same. Done this for 2 years now, and I still don't seem to have a handle on it from time to time. So anyway, everybody have a good day, and I'll see you. Okay, bye-bye.